They say fame reveals character, and if there's one modern friendship that proves it, it's the silent tension between Victoria Beckham and Meghan Markle. Once seen laughing together at elite events and sharing mutual admiration, the distance between these two power women has turned into a masterclass in how influence, ego, and reputation can destroy even the most glamorous alliances. When Victoria recently spoke about reckless behavior, in an interview many took as a veiled jab, the internet erupted and suddenly, the world was asking, has Meghan finally burned one bridge too many? For years, Victoria Beckham has been the textbook definition of controlled image and discipline, a woman who rose from pop superstardom to build a billion-dollar brand with precision and restraint. Meghan Markle, on the other hand, represents spontaneity, rebellion, and disruption, a royal outsider who broke protocol and reshaped conversations about tradition. It's no surprise that when these two collided, sparks weren't just expected, they were inevitable. What began as mutual admiration quickly evolved into a quiet competition of style, influence, and public narrative. Rumors of tension between the two circles started surfacing years ago, around the time Meghan's relationship with Prince Harry began dominating headlines. The British press, always hungry for royal intrigue, began contrasting the two women, Victoria, the disciplined British fashion queen, Meghan, the unpredictable American actress. Even though both women initially avoided direct confrontation, insiders claimed that trust began to fade after stories about leaked information appeared in the tabloids. To the public eye, it was subtle, but behind closed doors, something had clearly shifted. When Victoria made her now viral remarks about reckless behavior, referring to people who don't understand how power works and play the victim while craving attention, fans instantly drew parallels to Meghan's media interviews and Oprah appearance. While Beckham never named names, the message seemed deliberate. Her tone wasn't vengeful, it was controlled, almost surgical. It was as though she wanted to remind the world that fame without accountability is just noise. And whether you love or hate Meghan, you have to admit, the shoes seem to fit. The contrast between these two women has always fascinated the media. Victoria built her empire through silence and persistence, Meghan built hers through voice and visibility. Victoria mastered the art of the British stiff upper lip, Meghan tore it down in favor of emotional authenticity. Yet, in the brutal world of celebrity politics, authenticity can be a double-edged sword. Meghan's honesty about royal life won her sympathy in America, but in Britain, especially among the old elite, it was seen as betrayal, even arrogance. To Victoria's classically British sensibilities, that kind of openness might not just be reckless, it might be catastrophic. What makes the situation even more intriguing is how public opinion has shifted. While Meghan and Harry's popularity in the US continues to fluctuate, Victoria's brand has quietly soared again, reclaiming her as the embodiment of refined modern British culture. And here's the irony, Victoria never needed to defend herself. Her silence was her statement. Meghan, meanwhile, continued to fight for narrative control, and in doing so, sometimes handed her critics the very ammunition they needed. To many fans, Victoria's veiled comments were less about cruelty and more about boundaries, a subtle message to a world addicted to oversharing. She seemed to be saying, power doesn't scream, it performs. That line cut deep, especially in a culture where Meghan's every move is dissected as either heroic or manipulative. If Victoria's empire is built on discretion, Meghan's is built on confession, and those two worlds simply cannot coexist without friction. Still, we can't ignore that both women are victims of the same system. The media thrives on comparison. It turns confidence into arrogance, honesty into chaos, and rivalry into entertainment. Perhaps the tragedy here isn't that Victoria destroyed Meghan, but that the public wanted her to. We love a downfall story, especially when it involves the royal fringe. The press didn't need to invent this rivalry, it simply magnified what was already there, two powerful women who refused to play small. In a sense, Victoria's remark about reckless behavior wasn't a personal attack, it was a cultural commentary. She was speaking to the modern obsession with exposure, the need to turn every struggle into a headline. It was the kind of critique that comes from someone who has survived decades in the spotlight and learned that sometimes silence is the loudest statement of all. Meghan, with her candid interviews and tell-all projects, represents the opposite, the belief that transparency equals truth. But transparency without timing, as Victoria would say, can destroy more than it saves. And that's the real story here, not a feud, but a philosophy clash. Two women, two worlds, and two very different definitions of power. Victoria Beckham's version of control may seem cold, but it's built her legacy. Meghan Markle's brand of expression may seem brave, but it's also burned bridges. Whether you see Victoria as poised or calculating, and Meghan as courageous or reckless, one thing is certain: both women are mirrors reflecting the world's divided view on fame, integrity, and influence. And if this is a battle of perception, Victoria may have just won by saying less, and letting the world do the talking.